Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial on the team contracting process as well as how to do the team conversation summary. So let's begin with the team contract. You've probably done many team contracts or team charters before. This has a specific purpose to it, which I'll go through briefly. So first, of course, the basic information, put in the course name and number, the section you're in. The team name I would like you to do last. Ideally, if you can have a conversation first and then come up with a team name, that would be great. Look for a team name that really represents who you are, and don't just take a name because it's quick, because you'll find that the team name becomes something more important as the project unfolds, and ideally you want this to really represent who you are. Your team members' names, that's pretty straightforward, first and last, as well as the student ID. In this team contract, you're first going to have a conversation with your teammates, and this is going to be between an hour and a half. It is important that this meeting be in person unless there is a severe geographic limitation. You get together in someone's home, in a meeting room, in a cafe, doesn't matter where, someplace quiet, where you can talk about the questions that follow. In the first section, we have questions around how we can support each other. So what am I able to offer my team? What are my strengths? What would I like to receive from my team? In other words, what skills, attitudes, or supports would you like from your team and teammates? And what is my idea of optimal teamwork? For this section, the first section, it's important for individual team members to reflect on these questions and create answers for each one before you guys actually come together. Because when a group comes together, often they don't take the time to really think about this. So really important to be open and honest. And when you meet in person, to share the answers to these questions. How we behave and work together. So these questions are asking about what we want the team experience and dynamic to be. So what is absolutely non-negotiable? So this is a baseline standard of behavior or specific outcomes. Like you may think, like for this project, we want to absolutely get at least a B+ or higher as a mark on the project. Maybe a baseline standard of behavior is nobody cancels within an hour of a meeting that we have set up. Whatever you feel the baseline standard ought to be, or a specific outcome that you think is absolutely non-negotiable. Certainly absolutely non-negotiable for most teams is actually doing the project. What standard of work performance do we wish to achieve? And again, this could be related to marks. It could be the quality or depth of insight. It could be something that you feel you could show to a potential employer. What's that standard of work performance? So if you say you want an A, great. Have you had A's before? And if so, how did you get there? So what do you think that might look like? That's really important to understand that as you go through this question, because people have different ideas. Everyone will say, well, we want to get an A. But how many people really want to put in the effort to get an A or higher for a particular project? How will we maximize the learning team opportunity during the course? In other words, this team is going to be together for the majority of the course time. And so you want to ask yourself here, what other opportunities are there? There are other class activities and course activities that you're going to be engaging with. Are there other supports that you could use the team for? It doesn't have to be, it can be just focused on the project, but what are the opportunities here? Do you want to establish a certain kind of feedback mechanism that will allow people to learn more about themselves? What do you think the opportunity is here that you have a learning team together for a good 2.5 months? Scrolling down a bit, we see there's a third section that we call practical stuff. Now this is really straightforward. So what is each person's availability? You want to be clear about that, and as team members you want to be sure to try to make an effort to be available. If everyone just says I'm exclusively available only this, and this, that doesn't really support great team collaboration. I always recommend to teams that they establish a regular weekly meeting that even if they don't use, they can cancel. If you're trying to establish a meeting date and time every week or every time you need to meet, you may find yourself running into obstacles as people have other commitments. So one of the best things you can do is really talk about what is a great time to meet. Everyone might have to sacrifice a little bit, push some things aside for the sake of the team, maybe put a 2-hour block or 2.5-hour block of time together every single Monday evening, for example, between 7 and 9:30, and whether you meet in person for things or you talk on the phone or you Skype or whatever, that you at least you always have that block of time available that you can always cancel if you don't need it. How will we handle situations that may be difficult? So what is a difficult situation? Well, that can range quite a bit. What if somebody's not doing their work? That's a question that's very straightforward. Will you have a 3-strike policy? Will you have some kind of warning system? Certainly if there are issues that come up with the team, you need to talk to me if they're unmanageable. Before it becomes something that needs to be addressed with some kind of vote to remove somebody from the team, you need to talk to me way before that to see if there's a way to resolve it. Ideally, you want to try to resolve it amongst yourselves. So other than someone not doing their work, what is a difficult situation for you? You guys have to talk about that. Does somebody have a very pressing obligation? Are there any health concerns that need to be brought up because there may be some implications in terms of the workflow of the project? Certainly I've seen that happen before, where sometimes a student will have a health concern that needs addressing, needs ongoing care, and the team needs to accommodate treatment. Not very common, but it does happen periodically. So ask yourself, what is this here that you need to address or maybe talk about in the foreseeable future? So where this is all going is to this section called Commitments and Standards. You're looking for 5 ideally, no more than 7, because typically people don't remember what they are. So you want 5 clear, very precise commitments and standards that come out of the conversation with those 3 sections of questions. However, before you complete this section, you want to first complete the conversation summary, which we'll take a look at now. This team conversation summary must be completed and handed in with your team contract if you're required to hand in the actual documents, or if not, then they'll be brought up for discussion, but typically they need to be submitted in one way or another. What you want to put at the top here is your team name, date, and that's the date either you completed it or the date that you're handing it in, and the team member names, so first and last. I don't need the IDs for this, just the first and last names. And this is a movable template, so don't worry about making more space. So what you want to do is provide a summary to each of the questions. These are exactly the questions that were asked on the front page of the team contract. And so what you can do is one of 2 things. You can either put in individual names of your team members and 1 line about what their main point was around each of these. Maybe it's 1 or 2 lines each. Or you can simply include them as statements that are not assigned to an individual person. Either way, whatever you feel most comfortable with is fine with me. I don't have to do either one. So you'll see that each of the questions are laid out here. They need complete full answers. You don't have to write down the entire transcript of everything you said, simply the main points that each person contributed. And like I said, you can put in their names or not. And as we scroll down here, you can see that it's about 2 pages. By the time you're finished putting all the information in, it'll probably end up being about 2.5 or 3. Whatever it is, there's no minimum or maximum. Just make sure the information is complete. But please don't write a long essay. This is a simple summary so that you can consolidate your conversation before you do the commitments and standards in your team contract. So let's go back to the team contract to finish up those details. So back at the team contract, like I said, you do 5 commitments and standards up to a maximum of 7. Each one should be clear, precise, and succinct, so you shouldn't need more than 1 line for each one. Then you sign it at the bottom, and it says, "We, the undersigned, agree to the commitments and standards as stated in this document, and each of us promises to give 100% commitment and effort to this project and to the success of the team." Name, please print, of course, and then you just sign it. Don't need student IDs here. Scroll down, put in the date of submission of the team contract. Witness, you don't need for this. Sometimes we do that as a matter of course when we use this for specific kinds of projects, but you won't need to do that generally. What you want to do is just put the signatures of the teammates above and the date, and don't worry about the bottom part. And that's basically it for the team contract and the team conversation summary. Remember, both must be completed. Good luck and have fun.